thrilled to introduce to you my friend Steve Zehngut. He's been in the client services business for decades. He runs an agency called Zeek Interactive. They do lots of WordPress development, lots of application development, native, iOS, Android, all that good stuff. They've worked with some really impressive brands. Steve is here from Huntington Beach, California today. So for Steve, I think it's about 180 below zero here in Salt Lake City. And Steve is also a Clippers fan, but we will not hold that against him. So thank you, Steve, for he's got his Clippers socks on. Much respect for staying loyal. And Steve, the time is yours.
Ouch. Thank you. 2013, WordCamp, Orange County. There was a business track that I was part of, and I was sitting on this business track with Chris Lemma and Kareem Maruki, Sayad Balki, and David Hensel. And we were talking about sales and client relationships. And I said, I don't have clients, I have friends. And they've never let me live this down. This is a quote that stuck with me for a long, long time. And they say it kind of jokingly, but I do mean this. And I want you to think about this as I go through some of the stories that I'm going to tell during this next 35 minutes. About 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting in LA. I had to go meet with a client of mine at Stars Entertainment. And leading up to this meeting, there was another client that I was trying to get in touch with. An old client that had just, I hadn't been in touch with for a long, long time. And this is a client and a friend that we did a lot of work for in 95 all the way through 2002. Guy by the name of John. And we did work for John for Universal. We built games for him, online games. When he moved on to Fox Kids, he brought us along, and we did about 15 or 20 games for Fox Kids. And then he moved on to the Game Show Network, and we built some very successful games with him at the Game Show Network. And along the way, John and I just became friends. He was no longer a client. He and I would call each other and just share ideas about the industry, about games, about business, about family. And he really just became a good friend. And we had lost touch. And so I was on my way to Stars, and a couple weeks before that, I had emailed John just to see what he was up to these days. We talk every now and then. And we had made plans to get together after the new year. Never really came to fruition. We made plans, we broke them. It just didn't happen. And so I went to Stars for a coffee meeting with this friend of mine. I was going for a coffee meeting, and I was a little bit early, and I decided to stop at Starbucks. I was going to a coffee meeting. And so I stopped at Starbucks to get some coffee on the way to my coffee meeting. And I got my coffee, and sitting right there was John, talking to another friend of ours. We just bumped into each other. And he said, this is just luck. It was meant to be. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to this meeting, and I don't have anywhere to be tonight. Why don't we go grab a drink after the meeting? And we did. And we caught up, and he called me 2 days later and said, I've got a big project for you, and I'm going in Friday to talk about this big project. Now that was lucky. Kind of. Everybody recognizes this movie? Best poker movie ever. Here's the thing. I don't believe in blind luck. Frankly, I really don't believe in luck. And I've talked about this at past sessions. I believe that you create your own luck. Sure, I bumped into John at Starbucks on my way to a coffee meeting, and we happened to make each other's acquaintance again. we were going to reconnect. He knew that I've always done right by him. We were friends, and this project was going to come to fruition at some point. He was probably going to give me a call. But my timing was just happened to be right. But let's talk about luck. There's a couple quotes that I like when it comes to luck. One of them was by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Shallow people believe in luck. Strong people believe in cause and effect. Another quote that I like, and I don't know who said it, but luck has a particular habit of favoring those who don't depend on it. One of my favorite quotes about luck is this, and this is how I define luck. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And since I'm standing amongst a group of developers, let's go ahead and draw a Venn diagram around that. So right there, right, that's luck. But let's talk about that. So what does it take to be prepared? First paying project I ever worked on in 1996 was for the movie Multiplicity. Raise your hand if you saw Multiplicity. Oh, you're the unlucky ones. Oh, I forgot. We're live streaming, right? Yeah. Shit. Don't tweet that. Multiplicity was a great first project for us. We were making games at the time. We were making Shockwave games. And we had a 5-game contract that we were called about for this movie, for Multiplicity. So the movie's about making a clone, and the website for the movie, the promotional website was, you're stressed out, you need a clone. And we made games that were basically online stress tests. That was the project. And we were to do 5 games. So we went in and we pitched a bunch of ideas, and they loved them, and we built 4 games, and they were great. And they went ahead and launched those games. And when we were in our meeting, toward the end of the project, they said, where's that 5th game? And I had forgotten about it. And off the top of my head, I said, oh, we've got a great idea for this 5th game. Punch the Clown. And they said, I'm sorry, what? I said, you remember those old toys, the big blow-up clowns, right? And you'd punch it, and it would rock back, and then rock, and then you punch it again, and they just kind of do it. Anybody remember that toy? Did anybody have that toy, right? So I said, let's make an online version of Punch the Clown. And they went, oh, yes, we love it. And we went back to the studio, and we cranked this game out in about 2 days. It was crap. But I had to satisfy the contract. Wouldn't you know it, that became the game of the website. That became their most hits. That's the one that got the most traffic. That game went on to become the Shockwave site of the day. I don't know if everybody remembers the Shockwave site of the day. And then it became the Shockwave site of the week. And then I think it became the Shockwave site of the month. Punch the Clown. We were known all over LA as the Punch the Clown guys. But I'll tell you what that taught me. Focus on a specialty. So this is the first part of being prepared, right? If you're all over the map with what you do, pick one thing and get really good at it. What we were good at the time was online games. That was our specialty. It got branded as the Punch the Clown guys, but it's the same thing. And so once that happened, we rode that wave for about 5 years, making online games. That was our bread and butter. Now, once you specialize on something, and our specialty was online games, you get called for other things. But it doesn't work in reverse. If you don't have a specialty, you're not going to get called very often because people don't know what you do. So people knew when they needed an online game, you call Zeke. And then while we were having a conversation, we would talk about other line items. And that's how we eventually grew into full-service web shop. Also under being prepared, know your shit. Goes along with focus on a specialty, but I assume that if you're here, you're an expert in something. Malcolm Gladwell says, it takes 10,000 hours of deliberate practice that are needed to become world-class in anything. Now, that's been debated, but that's about 5 years if you're full-time working at something, right? And I truly believe that. But more importantly than knowing your stuff, know also what you're not good at, right? Don't try to be good at everything. I know this is related to focus on or getting a specialty, but be honest with yourself. Know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and get really good at the thing you're good at. So if I'm talking to somebody and they're good at something, I expect that they're an expert. Perfect your process. At Zeek, we've got a process for everything. And I'm going to talk about our process for sales in a second. But anybody in the room know Erin Holbrook? Familiar with Erin Holbrook? So he's a recent hire for us. He started in July. Erin came on and completely refined our process for development. And frankly, up until that point, we were all over the map. Every site was different. Every app was different. Everything we were doing was different. So he came in and created a streamlined process for everything on the development side. And now that helps us scale. Because anybody on our team who touches a project knows exactly where things are going to be. And they know how to roll out that project. And they know how to roll back that project. They know how to deploy that project. They know how to get to staging. Everything is exactly the same. Sarah Weefald, our production manager, has a process. She has a process that is the same with every client. There is a weekly call set aside where every client knows that's at least sometime during the week where we're going to have a touch point. Now, they're welcome to call the rest, during the week at other times, but that time is set aside for you. Part of her process is to send notes after every call. And believe it or not, that's recent for us. So every single call we have, every single meeting, she takes copious notes and sends that to the client to say, hey, this is what we heard. Did we miss anything? Now let me tell you about my sales process. When I meet a new client or a new prospect and they want to find out what we're all about, I have a first 15-minute call, and that's just with me. The 15-minute call is to ask some qualifying questions, listen to what their goals are, and figure out if they're the right fit for Zeek. I can determine within about 5 minutes if somebody is a good fit for Zeek Interactive. Once that's done, we move them into what we call a brief discovery call. It's not a scoping call yet. The discovery call is a half-an-hour call with more of my team, typically Sarah and Katrina, my project manager and my account manager, and we ask more questions about the project. And again, this call is to further weed out. So we're trying to determine, is this a good fit for Zeek? If they are, we move them into a scoping call. The scoping call is a 1-hour call, and after that, our goal is to get to a proposal, to get to a budget, to get to a timeline, those kinds of things. But that is our process. And we do that, again, to determine all the way through if the client is the right fit for Zeek Interactive. So know your process, and if you don't have a process, define a process. Understand your numbers. I know exactly what it costs per hour at Zeek, labor, overhead, and I know what our profit is. And I know what we need to make. And I know what we can charge and what we can't charge. And based on that, I've determined that a proper project for Zeek, a website project, starts at $75,000. And a proper app project, a good fit for Zeek, starts at $100,000. That's where I start. Now, that doesn't mean I'm the right fit for every client. There are plenty of clients that can't afford my services, and that's okay. I'm happy to refer those out. But I have a starting point because I know where I can make money. Now, that's not the only way I onboard clients. Lots of clients, especially recently, have come to me where they don't need a project originated. They don't need a phase one. They're going to step in as a maintenance client. And that's where our rate card applies. And I've put this up during other sessions, and I'll put it up now. That's our rate card. So if a client asks our rates, I send them this card. Those are our rates. And again, those rates aren't the right fit for every client, but those are my rates. That's where I can comfortably do business. Now, those maintenance clients may start with some sort of hourly minimum, or excuse me, monthly minimum, right? They may come in and say, we've got a backlog of tickets and we need to get this out. They may come in and say, you know what, we want to start out with a very small amount of hours and see how we work together and then grow from there. That's fine, because I know that there's profit built in at all of these hours, at all of these rates. And a lot of my clients are starting that way. Now, I want to add something to this. We don't charge a retainer. It's a differentiator between us and other agencies. There are no retainers. There are no minimums at Zeek. If I determine that a client is the right fit for us, the way we charge is we bill on the 1st and the 15th for the hours incurred during that period. That's it. And then they can use us however they want to use us. Now, that means they've got to work within our production schedule, right? If there's something more that they need that's outside of our production schedule, they need something more urgent, then that's a little bit different. But typically, we don't charge a retainer or a monthly minimum. So based on all that, what you need on the last step of preparation is an elevator pitch. Does anybody want to volunteer and give me their elevator pitch? I didn't think so. Elevator pitch is what you have to say when it's somebody you don't even know. And it's called an elevator pitch because it's somebody you might meet in an elevator. My elevator pitch is very simple. We build online businesses. Now, I didn't say anything about technology in that elevator pitch. And I never have. You notice my original elevator pitch when we were building games was, we're the Punch the Clown guys. We make online games. Here's what I encourage you to do, is think about what your opening is. If your opening includes the word WordPress, you might want to rethink it. Because if your elevator pitch is, we're a WordPress shop, you've just become a commodity. You're now playing the price game, because everybody in here is a WordPress shop. So one thing I've always recommended when we're talking about when I'm talking to somebody about an elevator pitch is do not tie yourself to a technology. Because then you're playing the price game. We build online businesses. I might say, depending on the crowd we're in, we believe that the future of technology is the integration of web, SaaS, and mobile solutions. And if you look at Zeek.com, that's what it says right on our front page. One of the other things to think about in your elevator pitch is to talk about results. So again, depending on the company I'm in, I might say, we've built news websites that have scaled to 1 million page views a day. In none of these have I said WordPress. WordPress is a means to an end. That's not bad, not judging, it just is what it is. Just like when I was building Flash games, just like when I was building Shockwave games or PHP websites. It's a means to an end. Your clients, your prospects, anybody you're talking to, they want to hear about results. What are you delivering? So I encourage you to think about that when you're thinking about your elevator pitch. Last thing I wanted to mention, and I could do a whole session on this, is never burn a bridge. This has more to do with your experience and your reputation, right? But I felt like this fits under the preparation part of the Venn diagram. The one thing I've always practiced at Zeek, and the reason that John came back so many times, is we've always done right by our clients. Now, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Things go wrong. Raise your hand if every single one of the projects you've ever worked on has been 100% smooth. I saw a half thumbs up back there. That's not true. Not at all. Not even close. We're not perfect. We're human. And so when I bring on a new client or a prospect or I'm talking to somebody, I let them know that, hey, we're human. We make mistakes. But it's how you handle those mistakes that makes you great. And so we've always done right by our clients no matter what. And that really is, frankly, what I think has kept me in business for 22 years. So that's it on preparation. So what are we going to do with it now that we're prepared? So let's talk about opportunity. Here's how you create opportunity. First of all, surround yourself with good people. I encourage you all to, again, I've talked about this a little bit, identify your strengths and know your weaknesses, right? We all have them, and it's okay. So what I like to do when I identify a weakness is find an advisor that can fill that void. Find somebody that can help me out with the thing that I don't know. Form an advisory board. That person might be sitting right next to you. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about surrounding yourself with good people. I don't work well in a vacuum. And so I do a lot of this kind of networking with other people that are my peers. And that's how I fill those weaknesses. I very involved in the local WordPress community in Orange County. So let me give you a quick story about how the OC WordPress meetup was formed. I've always been very much into referring business. I told you my price points, not the right fit for every client. But when I'm not the right fit for a client, the way I say it is this. Listen, we're not the right fit for you at this point in time. That doesn't mean we might not be the right fit later on down the line. So I'm going to find you somebody who is the right fit for you right now. It's okay to refer business out. That doesn't mean it won't come back if you say it the way I just said it. And by doing right by people all the way through, they will remember you, and they will come back. And so Jeff Turner, my old business partner, and I were sitting in the office one day, and we had gotten some projects in that we just couldn't take on. But we didn't want to leave these people high and dry, and we were new to Orange County. And so Jeff said, let's start a meetup. And I said, I don't know what that is. And so he went on to meetup.com, and he created a page, or created the group for the Orange County WordPress meetup. And a week later, we had our first meeting. And we founded it based on finding people we could refer work to. And that spread. And it created this community of sharing and openness. And that still exists today. And if you haven't been to any of the Southern California meetups, LA, OC, San Diego, or any of our WordCamps, I highly encourage you to come by. It's a great group of people that really is into giving back and paying it forward, which, by the way, that's that movie, Pay It Forward. If you didn't know that. Somebody asked me yesterday, why are you here? Because I don't do a lot of development anymore, right? And I said, I'm here to give back. That's why I go speak at WordCamps. That's why I go speak at WordCamps outside of Southern California. That's why I go speak at other conferences outside of WordPress. I enjoy giving back. Get out of the office. And this is something I have to remind myself all the time, right? I get stuck behind my desk and I start working on something I'm interested in, and before I know it, my day's gone. But I'm much more effective out of the office. And some of the things that I like to do outside of the office are events like this. But when I go to events like this, I sometimes go to the sessions. Most of the time I don't, no offense to any of the other speakers that spoke today. I go here for the hallway track. I go here for the after party. And I'm kind of known for the after party. That's where I do business. That's where I have meaningful conversations. That's where I make my connections. And that's where I get to know people on a more friendly level than a vendor-client type of level. It's a different kind of conversation. I go to conferences where I don't even have a ticket to the conference because I'm not interested in the conference. I'm interested in the parties. I'm interested in the people that are there. That's how I do it. Look for meetups that are not WordPress meetups in your area and go to those meetups. I'm not saying don't go to the WordPress meetups. Those are important. But in addition to that, go to other meetups. Go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. Any type of networking event you can find that's in your area, go. And if they don't exist, start it. If a meetup doesn't exist in your area, start it. If you don't like the WordPress meetup in your area, start a new one. That's how these things happen. I go to about 2 to 3 networking events per week. And I go there just to have conversation. In addition, volunteer to speak. Speak at a WordCamp, speak at LoopConf. Get involved. You have something to say. Even if you've never spoken before, do it. And a great place to cut your teeth speaking is at your local WordPress meetup. Brandon can attest to this. One thing that we do in our community is anybody can speak. Anybody is welcome to speak. It's a great place for our speakers to start. And that's actually how we get a lot of our speakers at our WordCamp. They start speaking at our meetups. This is a new term for me because I'm old. Ghosting. What this means to me is keep your promises, right? So if you've made an appointment with somebody, keep that appointment, right? If you've made a promise, keep that promise. Always follow through. This goes back to what I was talking about with reputation, right? So if these opportunities come up, make sure you see them through. And if you can't, communicate why you can't. That communication is invaluable. This is my favorite slide. And we say this at Zeek all the time. Coffee's for closers. I'm a natural-born closer. It's what I do. I put myself through college in sales. Anybody remember Circuit City? That's how I put myself through college, selling stereos. I'm a terrible opener. I'm a great closer. But let's talk about closing for a second. So you've done the work. You are prepared. You've gone to your local Chamber of Commerce event. You've gone to a networking event. You've gone to a non-WordPress meetup, whatever. And an opportunity arises. Ask for the sale. It's something that I know a lot of people just forget, right? Set an action item at the end of your interaction. So if I'm interacting with somebody and there's something in common, or there's an opportunity, or we just need to share some ideas, or this is somebody I want to get to know better, I'll set an action item at the end. Hey, you know what? I'm going to follow up with you later next week. Why don't we set up a lunch? Or we should talk about that thing a little bit more. I'd like to share some ideas on that. When can we get together on that? Always set an action item. I'm reading a book right now called Give and Take. I'm just about done with it. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. What Give and Take is about, it's about reciprocity styles. Takers, matchers, and givers. I think I've always been a giver. I can relate to a lot of the stuff that's in the book as far as that reciprocity style. But one of the things I like to do when I'm talking to somebody at a networking event is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And that gets a really great response, right? Because that's different than saying, how can I sell you something? When are you going to use my services? Right? What kind of projects do you have? Those are different questions. If I start my conversation with, how can I help you? I get a lot more follow-up. I get a lot more response. So again, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend reading Give and Take. And once you ask the question, these qualifying questions, make sure you listen. It's one thing to ask a question. It's another thing to listen. And that's a value that we really do hold near and dear to our hearts at Zeek. It's something that all of my employees practice. It's something that I do, and it's something that I try to instill in them, right? It's my natural reaction when I'm having a conversation to just jump in and start explaining, right? Or interrupting. And that never works out well. So this is not a natural skill for me, and it may not be a natural skill for you, but I highly recommend that you practice this as much as possible. And it does take some practice. It does take some conscious thought about what am I doing in this interaction. So when I ask somebody a question, I just sit and I wait, and I listen. And when they're done, I repeat back, you know what, here's what I heard you say. And then I ask another question to get them talking a little bit more. I mentioned Sarah's process for project management. So something that we do on every call and in every meeting is we take notes and we respond back to the client or the prospect or anybody. This is what we heard. Anything to add? At WordCamp Vegas in 2015, I met Dustin Meza from WP Engine. And so Dustin and I decided to take a group of people to dinner. And this was a group of millennials. And I play a game when I take people to dinner. I call it phone stacking. And right, so the game is this. Once you get to the table, you put your phone in the middle of the table. First person to touch it pays the bill. This was our phone, that's a real picture. That was our stack of phones at Vegas, at Haleo in the Cosmopolitan, okay? So I had 15 20-somethings staring at their phone in the middle of the table, shaking, not knowing what to do with themselves for about 10 minutes. And these are people that can't afford a bill like that, so they're not going to dare touch their phone. Now, Dustin and I had already agreed that we were going to split the check. So it was a bit of a setup. But I encourage you to put this away when you're at a networking event. Put this away at the after party tonight, right? If you go to dinner with somebody, put this away. And I mean away. I mean in your pocket, in your purse, in your backpack, with the ringer off. That's different than this move, right, where you put it on the table in front of you, right? That's not away. That's still within my line of sight. I'm still tempted to do one of these. Anybody see that recent Simon Sinek video where he talked about millennials, right? This is an issue. So you can be a leader in this area by just putting this away and having a conversation. That's how you create opportunity. Now, there is a new app on your device that I do recommend if you're going to use your device. It's called the phone. It actually makes calls. Yeah, I know. I'm the old guy in the room, right? And I say that because, does anybody know what the worst form of communication is? Email. Text is number 2, right? Best form of communication is face-to-face, which is what I've talked about up here. Second best, video chat. Third best, if you need to communicate with somebody, especially if somebody sent you an email, especially a heated email, is pick up the phone and call them. I have clients that are shocked that I've just called them. But that's effective. And that's about being personal and taking ownership. And a lot of things that I could talk about, but I'm almost out of time. So let's go back to our Venn diagram for a minute, okay? So I don't like this word. What could we replace that with? Success. I like that. Success. So let's rephrase this. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. I am Steve Zehngut. I am the founder of Zeek Interactive. I run the OC WordPress Meetup. I am the new lead organizer of WordCamp Orange County, and I'm a frequent contributor to the WP Water Cooler. And so thank you.